Hi folks, this is Krista Soria, just walking you through some of your data that you have for our HEA 530 course, the data analysis course. These are the data here that are located in the Blackboard website, and this would be essentially the data that you would get from the Office of Alumni Affairs. If you click on the code book, which is a little worksheet tab on the right-hand side of your data, you will see here how all of the data are coded. So, for example, year graduated, it's numerical. It stands for the year of graduation from Finchley College. 2013 donation, that's a total amount of alumni donations. Reunion attendance, coded 1, yes, they attended, 0 did not attend, and so on and so forth for your code book. Each row represents a particular donor as designated by this separate donor ID, along with a variety of information for each donor as well. To help you to make sense of some of these data, there's a lot of ways that you can analyze these data in graphical form. That will help you to write up and develop the best assessment and evaluation of Finchley College. So as you read in the interviews, the reunion attendance, baseball games, I made up a couple of others here too, like dinner at the Commons, the archaeological dig, which you read about, contributions to the blog, and I mentioned a few other things like mentions in an alumni magazine, interviews for the alumni magazine, whether they had contributed to research, publications, scholarships, or funds, the alumni's occupation, and then their yearly salary as well. So some of these are drawn from the interviews, and then others I just created for you to help you answer some of the questions that you had about, thinking about how can we do better at meeting our goals, right? Who should we be reaching out to? Should we try different strategies? Are there some strategies that are already working really well, and should we capitalize upon those strategies? That's what this entire data set is created to do. So one thing that I would recommend doing is, in order to help you sort of make sense of the data, is to create a pivot table. If you go under your Insert tab, there's a little link on the upper left-hand corner. That's what it looks like in my Excel document anyway. If you click on Pivot Tables, a little pop-up will show up for you. You're going to select the entire data set. So to do that quickly, just hit the little corner, upper right-hand corner here. And I've already selected all my data. And then I'm going to import essentially the pivot table to a new worksheet. So I'm just going to click OK. So for most of you, these options are already selected. Once you're here, there's a number of ways that you can create some pivot tables, again, to help you make really good sense of the data. As you read in your interviews, there was something about age, right? Alumni over the age of 55 were maybe more or less likely to donate, right, per year, if you remember going back to your interviews. So we can actually map that in a chart to get a better sense of graphically, can we get a better understanding of those data. I clicked on age, and then it sort of filled in automatically this rows section. I'm going to go ahead and click on their 2015 donations as well, because that's one of our newest years. That also moved into rows, but that's not really helpful. What we want to do is we want to look at the average amount of money donated by each age group. So I'm going to move 2015 over here into these values. And then right now you'll see it's counting the number of donations. So 30 22-year-olds donated something to Finchley College. 19 23-year-olds donated something to Finchley College. But I actually want to change that to look at how much they donated. So right now it says count, and I'm clicking on value field, and I'm going to select average here. And then now we see on average how much each alumni donated by their age. One thing that we can really quickly do then with these data is, if I'm just went a little too fast, sorry. Let's see if I can slow it down just a little bit. It's a little too fast. Let me zoom out so I can show you what that looks like. There we go. Is I'm going to look at each age group and just highlight that. And then I'm going to create just a little line graph from my data. And let me see here if I can just move this kind of over, zoom back in for you really quickly. And I'm just moving my GoToMeeting session here too. So here's our data of the average amount donated by age group. And looking at these data right away, you can probably see a very noticeable spike, right? That's around the 49, 50 age group, right? This whole area right here. And then back again, another big spike at the 75 to 79-year-old age range as well. So if I were to make a recommendation from these data, what I would suggest is Benchley College think about reaching out to folks from these particular age groups. This may be 48 to something like maybe 54 age group, and then also the 75 to 79 age group, right? Because those might be some prime targets of folks who are most likely to donate because they've donated in the past, right? It seems to be a really good age group there for donations. So this might be the type of graphic that you would create for your analysis as you're thinking about, how do we reach out to alumni and who, what would be a great recommendation based on the data that we've received. There's some lulls in the data, right? Those younger folks are less likely to donate. And another recommendation could be, for example, well, why aren't, the 22 to 36-year-olds donating as much on average? Maybe we should interview those folks or send out a survey or figure out, why that particular age group is not donating as much. And maybe we want to direct our efforts, publications, promotions, newsletters, requests or whatever to other age groups. But we could also spend some time figuring out why this age group is a little bit on the low side. Going back to our data, I want to create another pivot table, and I'm just going to create a new worksheet. You don't have to do this necessarily every time, but I'm just doing this so that we can keep our data fields clear so you can see what we're doing. So for some students had questions about academic major, so I'm going to select that one, and you can see that populated rows. And we've got all these different academic majors at Benchley College. And I'm going to choose the 2015 and 2014 alumni data. And I'm going to, again, moving those over to the values. And I'm actually going to just do it in order 2015 to 2014 and 2015. And again, right now we have the counts. So 122 anthropology majors donated something, 103 art history majors donated something. But what I want to do again is look at maybe how much on average they donated, because I think that that's probably where we're going to get our best information. So I'm just changing the value field settings, and I'm going to go ahead and again create a really nice, easy to read graphic so that we could see from these data, and maybe we could learn a little something, right? Who might be some of our biggest donors in terms, and maybe not some of the best donors as well. It looks like in 2015, those few history majors who donated definitely had a really big spike in terms of their donations. There's others that are a little bit better at donating than other groups. So education majors don't donate as much. Art history majors donate a lot more. Over here, psychology and sociology majors tend to donate more than math majors, and it looks like liberal studies majors as well. So, some interesting data and trends that might help us to see if we should, start reaching out to alumni from specific academic majors, or even like for liberal studies to see what could we do to, get those liberal studies majors to donate even more than they already are. As you create these types of graphics, it can be really useful to add some data labels. This is a lot of information on this table, but I just want to show you very quickly these data labels. Right now, these numbers are a little on the goofy side. I'm gonna format those a little bit differently. And again, I'm just kind of moving my GoToMeeting session, so it gets a little tricky for me here. But under my data labels, it's down here under number. I don't want to have as many decimal points that I have now. I I don't really know how that happened. There we go. So that way you can see numbers-wise, right? So liberal studies majors donate on average $192, and that was back in 2015. But these data labels, it's always a really good sort of best practice to think about as you're labeling your graphics for your reader, to have some additional information or data present to help them make the most sense of the information as well. So that'll be something that I'll probably ask most of you to do at some point as you're thinking about creating some graphics. So that can be really handy. And I just plotted the 2015 and 2014 just to see if there's any comparisons between the years, just as an example. And I'll go back and I'll create just one more. So I was thinking, one great question as I'm thinking of research questions might be something like, and let me go back because I just closed my little browser there. Here we go. One thing that might be really great is to see whether specific programs are useful or not. So as you read in the interviews, the archaeological dig might be a great way for folks. It might encourage people to donate more because they're already sort of involved, and the same is true for the contributions to the blog. So we're going to look at those two under rows. And then again, I'm going to look at the donations. I'm just going to look at 2015 because I think that's kind of interesting. I'm going to move donations again over to the values. And then value field setting, I'm going to make that average for both. And, for rows, I think I'm just going to do maybe one at a time. I brought up the contributions to the blog, but I'm just going to look at the archaeological dig. Pretty big difference there, right, between those who did not participate in the archaeological dig. On average, they donated $281 compared to those who did, who on average donated about $1,200. So this type of information might also be really great. I don't necessarily know that with just these two elements we need to have a line graph, maybe a bar graph would suffice for these purposes. And there's like a little blank category that I think if we highlight, we could get rid of it. Let me see here. Let me see if I can delete that. Nope. Oh, it's a pivot table, that's why. One thing that you can do within these pivot tables is just copy and paste your data, open up a new worksheet. Did not participate in archaeological dig. Participated in archaeological dig. There we go. So we've got these nicely labeled as well. Just copied and pasted that to a new worksheet. And here we go. Pretty nice and easy to see that those who participated in the archaeological dig ended up having a much higher donation rate on average, than their peers. It's probably statistically significant if we were to do the analyses on that difference. Yeah, so, that type of graphical information, I think, is going to be really quite handy as you're developing your presentations for Module 6. So that was a lot of me just talking. I also recommend Googling, how to create pivot tables in Excel. There's lots of things. I mean, these are your data. You can download this file to your desktop. If you wanted to go through and recode some of the data, a good strategy, for example, might be to recode maybe your age groups. So something that I might do, because I tend to be sometimes a little bit more hands-on with my data, especially in this format, is, if I'm recoding age, for example, let me sort by age, right? I might want to have a category that I create on my own. That might be something like 50 and over. So for all of those who are 50 and older, I might, code those 1, right? And just copy and paste and fill that in all the way up. And then everything else is 0 going all the way down. And that could be another great way to recategorize or recode your data as you see fit, or even Also, a year of graduation. There's all sorts of ways that you can recode and change your data. I'm just going to call this one new age group so I know what I've done. And again, going back to my pivot table, you can go through and I'm just going to use my new age group that I created, which isn't showing up here. So that's awesome. Let me go back and just make sure we have that saved. My new age group. Maybe I'll just make sure I've got that saved. Okay. So let's try that pivot table again. Sorry, guys. This is getting a little lengthy, I know, but I appreciate your patience, and I hope this helps a little bit. Okay, I don't know why age isn't showing up there. I might have to close it down and, let's see, choose new fields to add. I don't want to really play around with this too much. So sorry about that. I bet, if anything, if I closed it and I started it up again, I bet it would recognize my new age group that I just created. But sorry about that. That was a little goofy, a little off. Yeah, I don't know why age isn't there. You can also go in, I'll say, with pivot tables, again, if you do a little bit of research, you can also go in and filter and take some groups out. Maybe you just want to look at the 27-year-olds and the 28-year-olds. You can deselect them and they won't be included in your counts. Lots of fun things that you can do in pivot tables. If you have access to statistical software like SPSS at your institutions, you can also play around with these data by importing them into SPSS as well. So as you're creating graphics, go back to Module 5 and think about the types of questions that were asked there and how you can best help Benchley College to know where they're being impactful, maybe what they need to do to increase that overall alumni giving rate, right? Maybe where they should put their efforts. If they were to spend any time on anything, what would it be? Would it be holding more dinners at the Commons, holding more baseball games, having reunions for the classes? Like, where should they put their efforts, right? That's really the goal and the purpose of Module 5 and now Module 6. Please let me know if you have any questions, folks. Thanks so much.